Sark, it looked like Coach James kind of made his yearly trip to fall camp, and it looked like they were pretty excited to see him. What was kind of the tenor of the talk and whatnot?
Well, the tenor was, we made it a point, first of all, before we introduced Coach James, that the great memories and history and what Husky football has stood for decades, and the special moments that have occurred in this building, and that national championship in 1991 that inspires us every day, that he was responsible for that, and that we're the ones that are reaping the benefits of all of his success over the years, and we're thankful for that and humbled for that, and had a chance to introduce Coach James, and he gave a really cool, inspiring talk to the guys regarding the first game, and I think the guys really appreciated it.
How close is he? How close is he to the program right now, just in terms of sticking around?
He's around quite a bit, when it starts to get cool, he heads south, for the winter, but he's around quite a bit. He comes to every bowl game when we get there too, and we always go see him when we're down there in the spring for the dog days in the desert and spend some time together. So obviously he's an inspiration for myself, but to our entire program.
Is it likely that he'll make a speech during the Boise State game or before the Boise State game to the team too?
I don't think so. That was the one. That was the one he's going to give.
Is today the first time you've really gone toward Boise State?
Yeah, dedicated to it. Yes, completely dedicated to it. We had gone to it a little bit here the last couple of days, but today was a purely game prep practice like we would have on a Tuesday, and I thought it went really well. I thought the guys responded well to it. Anytime you're in a first game like this, you can try to have so much in a game plan. We really tried to focus on the things that we've been doing well in training camp and implement a game plan on offense, defense, and special teams that are conducive to our roster where we are today, and to put our players in position to be successful.
How much did December apply to what you're doing now? Is it much change?
Well, I think it applies somewhat because we all can't completely change. There's going to be some similarities, and so, but we also can't bank on that everything they did in December is going to be the exact same thing. They're good coaches too, and they have an off season too to prepare and to study, and they have young players that are developing, that are growing up, and so there's going to be some new faces on the field for them, just like us. There'll be some new schemes for both teams. So at the end of the day, we really have to try to focus on ourselves and our own execution and our own preparation.
Have you, in your USC time, or even when you played at BYU, had a situation like this where you opened after closing at the same time?
No, not like this. I think the closest thing was the Nebraska kind of trilogy that we had, where we played them in September, played them in December, and then came back and played them. I believe it was, I think it was the second game of the year that next year. I think I'm not sure, maybe the third game, but so I think that was the closest thing that we've had. We have this much familiarity with the opponent.
Can you talk about Antavius Sims and kind of what you've seen out of him in this fall camp and kind of going back to the last couple of years, and what's his role?
I think Tay is just really understanding the offense better, understands his role, and everybody has one. There's guys that are the frontline guys, and they're the guys that are the role players that can back up every spot on the field, and that's basically what Tay can do. He can line up at any spot at receiver for us. He's really worked his way onto the depth chart on special teams, and I think that, it's good for him. This hasn't been an easy process for Antavius since he got here, whether it was on the field or off the field, but to his credit, he's persevered. He's on track to graduate. He's going to contribute for us this fall. And I'm happy for him that way, because I think there's other guys that have been in his shoes that have checked out, and he didn't do that. He persevered, and he's here with us this fall, and he'll contribute for us this season.
Are you operating pretty much a penciled in or even markered in depth chart at this point with the guys?
We have a pretty good idea.
Know what they're doing.
Yeah, we have a pretty good idea. Obviously, the young players especially, they continue to grow by the day, and so exactly where we're at with them and what their role will be a week and a half from today remains to be seen as they continue to get better and better.
When the team starts to get cognizant of the fact that the depth chart's being formed and time is kind of wasting now, do you see a sense of urgency with some of these guys that know they're in a battle?
Well, it's hard. It's hard on them, because every guy comes into training camp with the aspirations of being a starter and all those things, and then the roster starts to take shape, and some guys end up on the service team, some guys end up redshirting, some guys are back and forth between service and on a full-time squad, and so I really try to connect with those guys because everybody has a role on this team, and even in our service periods, how vital they are to our success on Saturday. And so I never try to separate the team that way. I always try to keep us together and make sure our starters are respectful and thankful for the work that our service guys do for us. And so everybody has a role, and we just try to praise the guys when they're doing great stuff and try to motivate them when they're struggling, because it can be hard on guys at times when they're not participating as much as they'd like.
Are there certain spots where you know that there's still some serious competition that you've got to kind of sort out?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's, I don't know if that sort out's the right word. I think we have a pretty good idea of what the pecking order is on our roster, but that doesn't mean the competition doesn't wage on, and that's the beauty of our roster today, that the guy that's R2 behind R1, there's not much of a discrepancy at any position right now. So if the one's not performing, a 2 can step in and he might be as good or better, especially on any given day.
Can you talk about the progress of Evan Hudson when he first came on as a walk-on a couple of years back, to now being a backup tight end, now being a first-string defensive end?
That's a great story, you know, and I love all those kind of stories. I mean, you think about Trey Watson, who was a walk-on kid who we put on scholarship, and now Evan Hudson doing what he's doing. I think it speaks volume to our program, to our coaches, in that because you're a scholarship athlete or not, you don't get treated differently. You get the same coaching, you get the same strength and conditioning program, you get the same food, the same meals, and the guys that can take it in and really grow with it are the ones that are going to play. And Evan's done that. He's been a real worker in our program. He's a blue-collar type guy. He's accepted all the roles we've put him in. He's an emergency long snapper for us as well. And so when those stories come about where Evan is in his point of his career right now, I love it. And he serves as a really cool motivator to these young walk-on kids, the freshman kids that might be getting knocked around a little bit right now, but they know, hey, if I just keep working, I can earn a spot on this roster. I can earn a scholarship, and that's a great thing to have.
Do you remember what your first impression of him was when you tried out as a walk-on?
Yeah, well, I remember because we were recruiting Colin Porter and Michael Harvickson off the same team, so I had gone to see them, and Evan was a kid who was a baseball player, who actually played baseball for our program here for a little bit, who one of his issues was, when he'd go to baseball, he'd really thin out, and so we always thought, man, if we could ever, not that I want a kid to quit baseball, but if you ever stop playing, he's got the frame to become a big kid. Shoot, look at him today. I think he's over 280 plus pounds now. He was always relatively athletic for a big guy, but he just had the look in his eye, that tough guy look, that blue collar look that you like.
What have you seen from Dexter Charles this fall?
Well, we're seeing maturity. We're seeing maturity. He's still a young player. He's a redshirt sophomore. When you think about when playing as a redshirt freshman last year, he had some ups and downs going against some really good players. But I think that set the stage for him of what he needed to work on this offseason. He's an exceptional worker, a really tough-minded, good kid. And I think that his future is very, very bright, really bright as far as where his career can go.